Hello, what's up everybody? Hope everybody's having a good day today. We're getting a lot of price action out there on Bitcoin currently, so it's been pretty good, I would have to say. Let's see. Let's see what we have going on out there. Let's see if we have anybody in here watching today. The new format that I have here to look at makes it hard to see who's actually here. So if you're here, give me a shout out in the chats and we'll get the stream going. So far it looks like Ted's here, Stank's here. What's up, guys? It's nice to see you dudes again. We're gonna stick to our same normal routine where we cover Bitcoin first, followed by Ethereum, and then your altcoin requests. So if you do have altcoins, please put them in the chat and let's see where we're at on those. It'd be great to see what altcoins you guys are interested in this week. Every week somebody brings something that is absolutely amazing, and we find the needle in the haystack. So it's been really fun doing these live streams. XRP for Ted, you got it, my guy. You're the first one on the list. You win. Thank you for asking. Oh, hey, what's up? CRV. I don't think I've ever seen you in here before, Doctor. And if I have, I apologize. I will get this written down. Doctor wants CRV. You got it, sir, for the doctor. And VELO and Algorand for Chaz. How have you been, my dude? Oh, hey, Roar community's in the house. Why don't we look at the Roar chart? It has been quite a while. Let's see if Opportunity's bringing its head back up. What do you say, Liam? I think we're ready to check it out and see if we can get a possible reversal going there. All right, we got 2 votes for VELO so far. Nice, nice. So far for VELO, that's from Chaz and Stank. Let me get that written down. Thank you guys for all the chart requests. They're super helpful. I really enjoy doing them. After we do VELO, which has remained bullish. Things are still going okay. We'll check into it more. I haven't checked so far today, but we'll check. ALGO was the next one for Chaz. Sounds good. That looks like it's cruising to new all-time lows, Chaz. Not looking really strong, but sometimes, you know, when we get to those new lows, what we can start doing is watching for a range and a reversal to see if we can get a pretty good DCA on Algorand, because I don't think the project's dead, right? It was an ISO 222 token, right? So the government has some sort of utilization for that one. So I do think you're on the right track to want to be checking that one out. All right, the next one comes in is FARTBOY. We haven't covered this guy since the last stream. We really haven't seen any reversals on it yet, Stank, but we'll start to look into it some more today. What? We got Day Sleeper from Canada, eh? How are you, my dude? I hope you're doing okay. We have quite a few Canadians in the Discord. It's kind of hilarious how many they piled up pretty quite quickly. What's up, Panosaba? How are you, my dude? Where are you from? Where are you from? Oh, Dr. T, now it makes sense. Got it. It's so hard to remember all the different things across all the platforms. I apologize, sir. All right, buy low and sell high. That is the game, Chaz. You are right on that one. All right, Stank also would like us to cover something called Miner. Is this a stock or is this a cryptocurrency? If so, which exchange would be best to cover it on, okay? We have quite a few people in here. The stream's got a lot of views, guys. 12 of you. Thank you for coming by. As always, I just ask if possible, if you could like the stream, share it with your friends, and as a gift back to you, I will bust ass, hammer out these altcoins for you, and timestamp it all so that you can view this throughout the week so you can see how price action's been relating to it. All right, let's get this thing going, and we're going to start off with Bitcoin today, and then we will move into all the altcoins. So what other countries are you guys from? So far we got Canada in the house. All right, we got Miner on MEXC. You got it, my guy. Thank you, sir. So that means we're going to go for a USDT pair, obviously. All right, so this morning, we saw some good price action to the downside here on Bitcoin. I want us to stay focused here for just a moment on the larger time frames, and then we will come into the lower time frames. So there is a possibility, and for me, the way that I'm counting this is that was the top of our bull run. With the way Bitcoin has made this motion to the downside, we have great displacement in the look of an amazing 5 waves down to the downside and a 3-wave motion up that occurred rather swiftly. When we measure time from 0 to 1, we can see that this occurs before the 1 in time. I would say that leans probability towards it being a 2 versus a wave B. And then early on, like we've covered in a couple streams here, when we put a base channel on that move, we can see that we lose the base channel, right? This is often seen in impulsive movements or displacing movements, right? So after we make that motion to the downside, we can see here again another potential move. And it depends, you can count this as 3 down, or you can count this as 5 down. It's incredibly difficult as the 5 down because you have a rather extended fifth in this count. Nonetheless, afterwards you get a 3-wave motion to the upside again, which meets rejection, and a sharp 5 waves down can be seen in this motion, right? After which you can tell yourself, okay, well, if this is one of the possible scenarios would be that this was a wave 4 here, in which you usually see resistance by the 0.5, which we did. Now, when we're counting this as a possible wave 4 and we're looking to see where wave 5 could go, right? And wave 5 starts in a couple different ways. Wave 5 could start in a traditional manner, which is just a normal 5-wave displacing structure to the downside, right? Or it can start in a leading diagonal, which is what I'm liking to say we could potentially have here to the downside. Now that requires this to have 5 waves in it and 5 waves in it and 5 waves in it, which is totally fine. But you can see invalidation here on the screen at 84,204 area. This will occur, let me delete some of the marks that we just made, when you see the wave 3 become larger than the wave 1. So if we pull extensions from the high of a potential 2 to the low of a potential 3, and we move this over to the side, we use our corrective extensions, which I believe we already have on here. Get rid of this. You can see invalidation comes in when your wave 5 becomes larger than your wave 3. So this morning in the Discord community, we took a scalp long from the region of the 618, and we're looking for a motion to the upside. Yes? Now, you came down slightly under it around the confluence of the 786. So far, we have not seen a really decent low time frame hourly reversal. And until we do, I would still say, this could be hot water for 1-2 stacking to the downside instead, right? So if potentially this is 1-2 and another 1 into 2 and another 1 into 2, right? We likely won't get a very high retrace before a very sharp dump to the downside. Right, so if you begin to lose this low and touch the 84,200 area, you should consider that we're going for much lower prices. Yes, in a very impulsive manner with the 1-2 stacking, which in that case takes this red wave 5 down to a minimum target of 75,384, but it could potentially go lower to the 786 or even the 1 line. Right? I think at this point, this is when all the bulls in the market will be beginning to say, okay, now we're losing market structure. Now this is a bear market, right? As soon as they lose this here pivot, all the moon boys will have to change. They will have to admit defeat that this might be a high in the market. Yes? So let's keep our eyes focused on that and continue to watch out for these motions. Now, let's say this was a diagonal to the downside, right? It doesn't mean it is, it's just the maybe. If it maybe was a diagonal to the downside, Let's delete some of my riffraff here on the chart. We will see a strong motion in which a decent reversal occurs to the upside. Let's get some of these lines off the chart for you. Usual retracement after a diagonal is around the 786, but as you will see later in the stream when we look at VELO, we didn't find that 786 after a diagonal, right? So currently this would be the most common area of interest that we would be looking for, but we are open to resistance sooner, right? The golden pocket to that 786, or in some cases, a crazy wick to that 90% retracement area is something else that we could be looking into. But if this is truly a diagonal to the downside, 786 is the most probable per Frost and Prechter in their studies in the Elliott wave. So let's be watching out for that. Nothing has really changed besides these lower time frames on Bitcoin, right? The 4 hour, the 8 hour, the macro time frames are really cushion for the bears. Maybe this is a diagonal to the downside and you go for a wave 2. If that occurs, happy days, right? Now you're looking for, if this gives you a wave 1, let's say it happens, into a wave 2, you're looking for a sharp wave 3 after, right? A nice displacing wave 3 after. Now, the reason why that will happen is because after a diagonal, the motions that ensue after a diagonal are usually rather sharp, okay? So they will really come on strong after the diagonal, right? So that's something to keep in mind, right? Sorry for the glitches in stream if we have them today, guys. I have kids on homeschool, and it is important to me that their education comes first. So I'm doing my best with what we have here, and I'm currently working on ways to make the Wi-Fi and internet connection stronger. If you have any ideas on how to improve it, hit me up in the chats. I would love to hear them. Basically, that's everything we have here that we need to be watching out for on Bitcoin, okay? If anybody has any questions on Bitcoin, do let me know, but that is everything that I currently have for it. Ethereum is going to be a much more difficult potato to peel, but we will get into that now. Sorry, just taking a sip of coffee here. All right, so on Ethereum, you can see that we are watching this motion to the downside. We're looking to see where does this thing stop, right? So that we can find that first potential leg of support and a possible retrace. We've been drawing all over this stuff for potential paths this could take. The reason we are siding with this deep, scary path is because of the maybe potential of 5 waves up, 3 waves back, 5 waves up, 3 waves back, 5 waves up, right? If we have overlapping structures in which the potential, we'll check right now really quickly. We need to check to make sure the wave 4 is shorter in time than the wave 2. And we need to make sure that the wave 4 is less in depth than the wave 2 achieved. Now, the only one that I would say that looks hokey so far is time to my eye. So if we measure from the high of 1 to the low of 2 to the high of 3, let's turn off everything. We would prefer to see it not go past the 1-to-1, meaning that it becomes an expanding diagonal. You can see we're just a tad past. Now, this isn't a hard invalidation, so I'm not going to write us off, but there is a potential that I'm wrong here, and that this is just a corrective motion to the upside. Nonetheless, it allowed me to de-risk a majority of my Ethereum up here and look for this deeper cut, which saved me a lot of grief. Now, when I put a channel on from 2 to 4 to 3 as the kind of growth or acceleration channel to the upside, after the 3 points of connection, meaning 2, 4, and 3, we can see amazing center line reactions come into play. We lose the channel and find it as resistance. Because of that, I'm going to stick with this potential count for right now and assume that we go down to the 786, right? So if this is some sort of sharp double zigzag to the downside, which it could be, you have 3 waves down and 3 waves up. If we make another 3-wave structure to the downside, we could find this 786 pretty easily. The Elliott wave book by Frost and Prechter says that double zigzags occur because the first zigzag to the downside never really achieved the depth and correction needed, right? So this first zigzag down. Then it gets a connector that never really gets up really high. Often in WXY, when the X wave doesn't retrace high, meaning by the 702 retracement, we look for another zigzag to the downside, which is how I think we could potentially get into this region. If we also add extensions to this to the downside, from 0 to possible W to the high of an X wave currently, that gives us the 1 through 1.236 as an area of interest. Now, as a potential spot trader, this would be a great area of interest to look into, right? You also have what? Very close invalidation for this play, which when everybody else is feeling bearish and you feel bullish, it might save your ass and you might make some money. All right, so let's put a long in and say, hey, what if? Let's look at the risk to reward on this. So the downside's a little steep at 5% for a lever position, but for a spot trader, that is amazing. Now, when you're taking a 3-swing trade off of this, you're looking from low to high to potential low, which is around our entry of confluence at the 786 and the 1-line extension, around $2,783-ish cents. Doesn't matter, right? Area of interest, not an exact fucking science. Please don't count on the exact number. Just see it as an area of interest, okay? All right, let me get another sip of coffee here. I hope you guys are liking the stream. If you are, smash up the like button, dude, so more people can see it. Chat up in the chat. You know, feel free to talk. It's cool to see where you guys are from, what you're got going on this week, stuff like that. And if you guys are enjoying the content, let me know, man. Or if you want any changes, let me know too. That's cool. All right. So carrying onward. If this is going to give that last zigzag, you are looking for this to be some sort of A into B and then a C. So then you would have a nice sharp double zigzag and a decent correction on your hands, right? So when you put on your extensions from 0 to the highs of this motion to the lows, this is just a guess. It gives us take profits around 36.94 to the 4,115 range for Ethereum, right? Now, if you begin to take profits down here, it keeps your risk to reward more realistic, around a 5.52, which is an amazing trade setup. I'm sure that if it were going to find reversal here, we could use this last leg in the sequence with corrective extensions in the Discord to plot on the lower time frames for a possible more fine entry with invalidation so that we can even manipulate some leverage into this, maybe some low leverage, nothing over a 5x because it's never usually needed. All right, we've covered the macro a million times on Ethereum, so I'm not going to do it again today. If anybody needs that, let me know and we'll talk about it in the Discord. All right. Next thing we're going to cover after Ethereum was XRP for Ted. I hope you are still in the building, Ted. All right. Panosaba, no charts from you today, sir? All right, what else do we got, guys? How's the chat been? You're from Slovenia, Stank. Nice. Let me write that down so I don't forget. Slovenia. Wow. I don't think I've ever met anyone from there, sir. This sounds amazing. I'm going to have to look into it, see what all's there, see what it looks like, what kind of food you guys are known for, you know? Hey, bro, great TA. Thank you. That really means a lot. This is really hard stuff, and I truly appreciate you guys making the time to show up. What's up, Happy? Abelinsky. I'm horrible at names. I apologize. Abelaski from Finland. Nice. I don't think I've ever met someone from Finland either. Man, everybody's here today. All right. All right. We'll keep the party going. So now that we're done with Ethereum, the next thing that we have, guys, is going to be XRP. Do we have any XRP fans in the chat today? Usually XRP is quite a large community. You guys always have people here that want to see it. So how's everybody been? What have you been looking at on XRP? How have you guys been feeling as traders on XRP? I've been feeling not super bullish. From the tops, this is what keeps me bullish, is this three-wave motion to the downside, right? Now, with that being said, it's not doing so hot, right? Like you can see on a basic retracement, let me move it out to the side. We marked this up in the Discord yesterday saying, excuse me, you know, as a spot trader, this wasn't a bad area of interest to make a dollar cost average as a spot trader, right? You're not really trying to look for leverage in this situation because of this not very clear correction, right? On top of this leg up. And I want to show you this leg up because this is something we talked about in the Discord yesterday. And it doesn't break any rules per se, but it's definitely not beautiful, right? So the reason it doesn't break any rules is because when you measure from low to high of wave 1, just so that we can see the length of wave 1 and compare it to wave 3, wave 3 is longer than wave 1, right? You can clearly see it because it goes past the 1-to-1 extension, which means wave 3 is not the shortest wave, right? And then you get to a retracement in what could be a potential wave 4 that never overlaps into the tops of wave 1. Furthermore, saying, hey, maybe. So if you go from 0 to the highs of 4, or excuse me, to the highs of 3, to the lows of 4, we see that we find the 786 pretty bang on at $2.28. Now, the 786 would be more plausible as a wave 5 than a corrective structure off of some 3-wave up, 3-wave down, 5-wave up. So I'm going to go with this 5-waver being a potential valid 5-wave, right? And if that's so, we can see that we move down and back up in a 3-wave motion that comes to the 90% retracement of these highs. And it left bullish order flow on both highs and then moves down swiftly. I would like to side with that at some point you will find a reversal here and begin to move up for XRP. Now, I want you to be aware of what we talked about yesterday as a reason why you could believe that this cycle could be over for this and that you could be going for a much deeper correction, right? If this is only wave 1 into wave 2, and all this is wave 3, all this is wave 4, and you make a wave 5 that ends the cycle in a weird way, just like Bitcoin did, with this offset 4 and then the pushing 5, just like Bitcoin. That's the potential for this to have a much deeper correction. Now, I've got to be honest, I don't have a huge interest in buying XRP yet. It's made no reversals. That was just a hopeful scenario that we talked about in the Discord yesterday. I would have a lot more interest once we get to those deeper areas, if that makes sense, right? So for right now, if XRP could form a reversal, I'll delete some of this just so we could talk about it, right? You want to be a bull? Great, let's be a bull. If we're going to be a bull, we're looking for that same 3-swing setup. Please ignore this liquidation wick from the October 10th event. Let's go from low to high to current low. And I want you to also remember, once we hit this 90% mark in retracement, it will become likely that we will take this low. And we will take this low, yes? And that anything that it makes to the upside will just be corrective, right? So if you're lucky, you will get some sort of ABC to the upside. right? And this is, I don't want to give you hope. I'm just saying a maybe, right? If you're maybe lucky, you can get to the 1 through 1.382. If you're lucky in an ABC, which would take XRP to 235 to 256. Now, if you're super duper de-duper lucky and you're the most lucky person and this happens, go buy a lottery ticket because you might win that too. If by chance, after hitting this 90% retracement, it still comes up higher than the 1.382, then and only then, guys, should we consider that XRP made a valid reversal. So XRP needs to reach 271 to be considered a valid reversal, and that it will not be taking all this external liquidity in these lows and heading to sub $1 range, right? I will say that the $1 range for XRP is going to remain my current bias. I think that it is in a bear market. I think it is cruising on down to these levels. We can't establish the A wave yet, but I would like to imagine it comes after we sweep this external liquidity. I would say the most common area of interest for an A wave could be around the 0.5, and then we could see a nice little bounce sideways and up for XRP, followed by a sharp decline in 5 waves, which would make everybody say, the bear market's here, it's going to zero. And that 5 waves would likely stop somewhere after we lose the dollar range and come into this 75-ish cents range. Okay, so that's essentially everything I have on XRP, and at that time I would seek opportunity, and I would also tell you, you know, at that time, hey, we have at least, you know, more math that we can put on this. We're looking for the 1 through 1.382, like we covered for the other coin earlier in our analysis. Right, we're looking for the confluence to bring us the confidence in these setups. That means we're looking for extensions, retracements, and time fibs, delivering the trifecta of an area of interest so that we can make a managed risk move versus a hopeful fucking gamble. Yes? All right, so that is everything for XRP. If anybody has any questions over XRP, please let me know. I'd love to hear them. Or even comments, your path, what you think it's going to be doing. You know what I mean? Stank asked, which coin do you think has the most potential and has nice Elliott waves? I think that we might cover it during this stream. Let me check my list here. So that was XRP. So the ones we've been watching in the Discord are not on this list. 611 just listed one that may potentially have a good structure that we've been covering in the Discord, and that was Litecoin Stank. I have not checked it yet today, so I don't know if it's invalidated our setups as spot traders, but we will get into that very soon. Liam said, please be gentle with me on Roar Surf. You're DCA hodling that thing. Well, sometimes, you know, the best choice is to just hodl. And the worst choice would be to sell when you're 90% down, right? If you're in profits on some of these meme coins, remember that meme coins don't come back every cycle. Some might, Doge and these other ones, but the chance of your coin being a Doge is put like in a pile of shit in your hand and hoping it turns into a diamond, yes? So don't do that with your investing. All right, so let's move into the next thing, which is CRV for Dr. T. We've covered this quite a few times. I don't have it on my watch list anymore, Dr. T, because for me, CRV completely shut down the hopeful bullish pass that we had, right? You're currently in the idiot box that we put on, that we've been talking about in every live stream, and we formed that from the high to the low of the first pivot, and we leave it alone. Right, we began to see actions around the 50% level, and now we're back at the lows of the range. Until this range takes the prior low, in my opinion, you're being very risky. Let me adjust some of our extensions here, and I'll talk to you about where I think we could be going. Right, so this is the thing to remember. This achieved only a 3-wave motion to the upside, right? And you can see how they pump the volume into it. It ends on high volume for CRV, making it highly likely this is nothing more than an ABC, right? That achieved some great length. Now, if you're wanting to be a bull, I would say this is looking like an Elliott wave, 5-wave structure to the downside. It has the chop and grind at the end, chop and grind at the beginning, displacement in the middle with no overlap. We're not going to dig into it today. Then it makes a 3-wave structure up and faces rejection. Let's get this extension perfect, or as good as we can. Then we put a retracement from low to high like we already have it. We'll move it off to the side a little bit. And we start to watch the areas of interest, which were what? The golden pocket, which was the last place you bounced from, and now you're falling through. Meaning, you're likely to find this 702, once I get this damn arrow out of my way, which is around 0.3269, but you don't have confluence of extensions until 0.3031. Now, because this was a 3-wave motion to the upside, to remain bullish on further motions to the upside, you are hoping for a flat style correction. Yes, you're hoping for an A and a B, which means we come to the 90% retracement for CRV before a possible bounce, meaning the confluence of extensions and retracements, which comes in around 0.2253 as the 90% retracement requirement for a flat and the 1.236 extension for the plausible ABC to the downside. Now, that would be within the B wave. If it can hold these areas and begin to form reversals, we can hope for more to the upside. The problem, though, is in a flat, a B wave can get all the way to this expanded area of interest, which we've talked about in our last live stream, at the 1.236 through 1.382. Flats even like the 105, so they'll just sweep the low and then bounce. So maybe you go down here and wick to this. But that's what I mean. B waves are dangerous, especially in a flat. They can be very unpredictable. B wave in a flat is looking for that minimum 90 retracement, though. And after that, it could really expand on you and hurt you. So CRV has been not on my list for a little while because of that. All right, let's go look at Roar together. That will be on the YEO Dex screen now. Turn this back to Bitcoin because I'm in a fucking hopeful long. Come on, baby. We're hoping for a little micro reversal. See if we get it though. RSI is a little cranked up. You have hidden bear coming in on your RSI. You can see this is our last area of pivots on the RSI, and this is where you are now. So you are pretty cranked up, but that's okay. It can happen in the beginning of a reversal, so we'll continue to watch our scalp long from the Discord. On that scalp long, I'm going to take my invalidation and keep it here for right now at that 84.2. But if we begin to see some sort of sharp breakdown, I will consider moving that invalidation point up to the 85-120 range. We'll have to see what they're doing. All right. After CRV, we had Roar. So let's get to it. Are you still here, Liam? Oh, yeah. I see you in the chats, my dude. You got to tell the Roar community, man. We're here holding it down for the team. Nobody else. Nobody else. All right. So here's your hope. Here's your hope for the day. Let's check it on log and linear. So, fuck. I think you're going to know what I'm going to say about this. Price action that ends on high volume is often a corrective 3-wave motion to the upside, and often was a liquidity grab. But we're gonna dig into this more really quickly. I think that this chart suits itself best on the logarithmic. Let's delete everything. Now, I do like that when we look deeper into this, we can see that volume fell off into that high actually. So this is where I think you might not like me anymore, is that if that's true, I'm going to have to say that you're looking into some sort of momentum divergence there, right? Because of this three-wave motion down and this world's choppiest motion up in 3 that comes to around 90%, I do want you to know that you do have probability on your side to take this high at some point and this high. That it was likely not, you know, some sort of forever double top. But the problem here is that now you're looking at a potential flat to the downside in an ABC, right? Meaning that you're looking to take the lows here as the most probable thing and move into the rest of these extensions. Because you don't really have confluence of extensions and retracements to the 382, I would have to side with at some point that's where we see Roar grow in a nice kind of sharp manner, right? So I would say that's another 84% down in an ABC. After an impulse of this manner, right, this huge gain, people should have really thought about getting paid. Now, you can tell that we should have thought about getting paid. Why? Because we have the largest impulse of volume, and then volume starts to die off, right? I'm sure we can look at other indicators. Let's look at the MACD and see what she was saying. I didn't want that. That's what we wanted. What the hell is this thing? So, it was too early on to be forming those oscillations, but I would like to bet if it had been forming one, you would have had a really cranked up RSI at this time and a really cranked up histogram, and then you formed a divergence here along with them. Since it's a new chart, my dude, I think that it kind of gave you the grace of that. But I think that was the divergence telling people like, uh-oh. Then you have a three-wave motion down, which, you know, should have made you interested for a push-up. But when you only achieve a three-wave motion up that comes to 90%, you should expect to take those lows, right? This low is the most common, especially after that liquidation low didn't take it and it just bounced. Maybe that's a show of community strength through the Roar community, but I do believe, you know, at a certain point it's going to get a displacing motion to the downside. And then we'll be able to talk about more. But that's when we finally come to corrective extensions, corrective retracement confluence. Okay? All right, so that's everything for Roar Leam. Let me know if you have more questions over that, and we will cover them. All right. What's up, Brian? I hope you're having a great day, dude, and your back's loosening up for you. I know you've been having some problems with that, dude, and that is, back pain is no fun. It really kind of digs into every portion of your life, doesn't it? All right, so I don't, Chaz and Stank, are you still in the house, my dudes? I'm looking to cover Velodrome for Chaz and Stank. Now, this has been one that we've been covering pretty heavily in the Discord. I'm going to go this 1 minute chart really quickly because I'm in a leverage trade and I need to do a checkup. All right, we're good. Let's just hold. All right, we're going to go to VELO. Bang, bang, bang. That's a nice motion on the 1 minute, though the 1 minute means nothing. All right, so let's see, did Velodrome invalidate some setups or not? All right, so our hope, right, we bought Velodrome way back on a weekly. We'll cover this really quickly so that we can all understand where we're at in this party. The first thing that I would like you to notice is the hidden bold divergence, right, on this low of price action and this low of the RSI, right? So we have a three-wave pullback down, which is amazing, 535. Makes a really deep RSI reset with way back here. Look at this price action. That was Sarong's crown right there. 3 tips of the crown before she pumps. This was where the RSI was during that portion of price action. You can see that hidden bull came in when we made that 3 swing down, right? So now let's delete everything and let's talk about what we think we might see here to the upside on Velodrome. We're charting a potential leading diagonal, though they are rare. That is the best idea I could come up with due to the three-wave nature of every ascent and the choppiness. If that's true, we're looking for a 786 retracement on Velodrome from the low to the high, and that's why I said on Bitcoin and these other things, it's the same theory. Doesn't mean it has to reach this. It's just that we really typically see that 68 or 61.8% to 78.6% retracement after a diagonal. Now, when we involve extensions with this, from high to low to high, we see a three-wave motion down that comes to a 1-to-1. I personally don't want to lose all my gains that I got here, right? So I'm not trying to sit through buying spot and then they all round trip, right? So what we're doing here is, unfortunately, I'm sure I'll look silly, but I've already left my spot because when I was looking at this motion to the upside, I was seeing this as a three-wave corrective structure to the down for our pivot, right? As soon as we took the low of that pivot, I was seeing this as 5 up and a hopeful, I haven't looked at this today, and a hopeful correction to the downside before further upside. So it is what it is for me. I would rather de-risk here than lose the rest of that, 15% that we had, or 16% from spot plus fees, right? I would rather secure some of that investment just in case we're wrong here, right? Ultimate invalidation of a 5-wave structure doesn't come until its lows, though. So if you do want to hold your Velodrome until then, that's fine. I'm going to show you our bearish probability shift point that you should be watching, which is the 786 retracement. Where is my template? Where is my template? There. So you'll be watching that as your bearish probability shift point at the 786 on Velodrome with hard invalidation at the lows of the structure. Both prices are noted off here to your left so that you can see them easily. Now, if you are to be able to hold, right, so far your hope is that you will get to hold because you make a 3-wave structure down, right? Meaning that it's likely to come take these highs at some point, right? So maybe I panic sold a little early, but sometimes it's better to secure some profits than none. All right. So if this were to not work out your way and Velodrome invalidates your 5-wave structure to the upside and begins to break down swiftly and takes the lows, you have to understand, that you're just more than likely coming down to those more likely areas of interest, which was the 786, right? Which is the prior degree wave 2. Still think VELO goes to 0.0023 is what Chaz said. 0.023. Yep, that's the 786, sir. So if this local structure invalidates, Chaz, happy days. I made 16%. That's extra that I can add into my bag when we come down on Velodrome. But right, we'll be watching these next areas of confluence also, which is the 1.236 extension, which lies at 0.003272, and that is confluent with the area of the 702 retracement at 0.003021. So if this is what happens, happy days. We still aren't invalid as a bull for the diagonal of the macro, yes? Which is what really matters, okay? So that's everything on Velodrome. And the reason why you should be interested in this is because the prior degree motion was a 3,600% motion on logarithmic, yes? So we could get a 1-to-1 motion of that. So the gain could be amazing. I don't know what this project does or why the chart would do it. Sometimes You know, we see it in the charts first and then the news shows it later. Kind of like when we predicted the crash on Manta in VRA earlier this year, as well as when we predicted the crash on Giga, right? So this is, I wouldn't even like to use the word prediction when you talk Elliott wave. I would like to say it's more probability. No one's predicting anything. I don't know shit. We all know the same level of knowledge, you know what I mean? I just think it's just the path in the chart that gets taken, and you're just trying to stack probabilities to try to give you direction, right? Nobody really knows where this thing's gonna go. All right, let's take a quick peek at the Bitcoin micro real quick. It's not looking so stable. Let's see if we get a decent reset here. Since we've covered Roar, our next thing is going to be VELO, which we did, and then Algorand for Chaz. Algorand's not looking so hot shit. It made new all-time lows, which isn't amazing. But now what you're trying to find is a 5-wave reversal on an hourly. I would not touch this until it does so, okay? I messaged in the group yesterday and asked everybody, would you buy Algorand at new all-time lows? You know what I mean? Because I do think, you know, that's what's on the table. The reason why I believe in this, again, is what? A 3-wave motion that ends on high volume and never got impulsive, right? Unfortunately, that sells itself best as an ABC. Ends on high volume, high oscillation with hidden bear, and dumps. Same thing that you should be seeing here. 3-wave motion, ABC, ends on high volume, right? This story writes itself again and again. Look at this. It is, it's hilarious. And you can use your extensions to prove this to yourself again and again. Why Algorand wasn't bullish after that pivot. You can argue with me if you want it here. I'm going to put it here because I believe this is the same motion that Chainlink made, that this is 3 up and 3 down, that though they are rare, this could likely be a WXYXZ within the B wave to the downside. Yes, what is up, Nameless Monster? Dude, I was just getting word you weren't going to show up today. You're at every stream. Stick with me here. So ABC ending on high volume, right? ABC ending on high volume. These were opportunities and warning signs to get out of the project. And this is what we've been talking about the whole time in the Discord, right? So I'm going to stick this path. Let's clean the chart up. This is no different than the last chart that we looked at. We said, what happens after an ABC? We said a 90% retracement, right? Minimum. And that's if you're being a bull with this piece of great artwork. I do think at a certain point you will find a reversal. I think that often these 3-wave motions that sweep below is to clean liquidity out. I do think that if you want to be kind of like in Forex trading, this is a leg, right, of 600%. And now we're looking for a partner leg to the downside. So, or excuse me, a connector to the downside. So you have a leg. You're looking for a connector to finish, which likely comes down here. We'll make this yellow. And then you're looking after that for this partner leg, yes? So this is basically how you would be trading this setup. But the most probable thing to have happen in that partner leg is to take the highs of the initial leg. Yes? So if you have low to high, and this is why I say don't sell when you're 90% down unless you're holding a shitcoin, right? Most probable area of interest is going to be the 1.236 through 1.382. Okay? That will be for the connector. Let's get rid of this and we'll actually draw it on now. Sometimes I think the pictures help. I can barely read, so pictures really help me. If I go from high to low to the high of the 3 swing, and you just simply put on extensions, you can see reactions at the 0.618. If you even want to validate that set sooner, turn on the 382 and see, am I getting interactions there? Oh, glorious, right? It's no different than talking a 0.236 retracement, right? So you're just using extensions and retracements to see, am I validating the move? That's all. Okay, so on Algorand, we're going to look for the most probable area of interest which is the 1 through 1.382. And the beauty of this is that you have two areas of interest within this. One is the most common area of retracement, right? Which is this 1.236 through 1.382. After a three-wave motion up is that three-wave sweep of liquidity to the lows. That overlaps with our 1 through 1.382 extensions for purchasing, right? So be aware of this. Invalidation for your bullish scenarios. Validation comes here at the 1.618. Yes? So for a spot buyer, not a bad thing to start to look into. Yes? You could try to channel this corrective motion, but I think it's not going to go super swell. We will document this and watch it to see how it goes. But that would give us lower probability, lower support area of the trend line of the lower channel also when we apply this from high to low, looking for some sort of ABC to the downside. All right, so that is Algorand. I hope that is helpful, my dude. Let me know, Chaz, if that works for Algo and if that's something you're tracking. Do we have any other FARTBOY fans in the house? Because the FARTBOY is the next one we cover, folks. Let me get a sip of coffee and we'll move forward. All right. Sorry for the mouth noise. That was an amazing latte. I love when you get to the end of the latte and you have all this cream sitting there and a little bit of extra honey or syrup, and it's just like the best taste of the whole drink, I swear. All right. The next thing we're going to move into will be FARTBOY, and we're going to handle that here on the deck screener. Unfortunately, the last time that we covered this, we kind of talked about how it wasn't going so swell, that it could be just chopping about before it made new lows, and that it really hasn't locked in anything yet, right? So on the hourly, FARTBOY is still trapped in the idiot box. I do want you to be aware that this motion that it's making sideways has already taken past the 5 times in links. Now, if we put on the 6 time in links, put it here because who the fuck's using a 20? Once it passes the 6 in link, it's probable to not be a correction for that motion up. So let's delete everything so we can just talk. I don't think that this chart is setting up for a high probability movement at this point. Now, you're going to see a lot of people posting a lot of stuff about this, but nothing that it's made to the upside yet is an impulse. Now, I want to see, this is my daily, good. All right, so that's my daily 50 EMA. Here's my daily RSI, 4-hour 50 level, as well as my 4-hour 50 EMA. When you are rejecting from a 4-hour 50 EMA and 4-hour RSI, that coin is moving into bearish territory. Yes, because of that, I would be just cognizant that if it loses the daily 50 EMA, which is sitting here currently around 0.1021, I think what would come to the downside will be a very swift motion that takes this low. Now, we talked about this in our last live stream. If we just classically analyze this and toss Elliott wave out the window for a moment, this is something we've covered in numerous FARTBOY streams. Yes, we're going to worry about just the ascent to the upside currently. And people are going to say, oh, rubbish, you can't count this first wave as anything. It's an inception. Great. We won't. Classically, same thing we looked at on our other deck screener. was a divergence of volume and RSI with higher closures of price action on FARTBOY. This is a classic momentum divergence, right? And you can see each peak is pumped to the max on volume, but still diverged. Yes? That was the top of the cycle for this. Now, that being said, I think there's a lot of people who believe in this. I'm not shitting on it. I think that for it to hold price action like this, that's a strong community. Yes, just like Roar. It's displaying strength in the face of this adversity of Bitcoin's bear market, right? Now, if we look at FARTBOY here as a potential leg, and we just analyze this classically like we would in Forex, and we don't necessarily worry so much about trading this as Elliott wave, right? We're just looking for a leg and a partner leg, and a leg and a partner leg, yes? Now, because of this lower low, we might have to go to here, but it doesn't change my math much, so I'm gonna stick with this for now. And this is a complicated connector. You have to go to the highest high of it. You can see to the downside, look at what you've interacted with. 0.236, 382, 0.5, 618 rejection, found support at the 786. I think this time FARTBOY could easily lose that 786 and cruise down to find confluent areas of support. Now, I want you to be aware that when you make such a good motion to the upside, you leave liquidity behind. And when you do, it is the most common area of interest that you will go back to. Yes? Let me get this total range out to the side. So, if we're looking for confluence of extensions and retracements, these are our retracements, these are our extensions, then we're looking for a leg and a connector and a partner leg. We don't see partner leg supports typically until 1 through 1.382, which means this could come down to around 0.4108 is where the most confluent area of it support would be, because that's our next retracement support, right? You might get a wick past it to the 1.236 or even 1.382. But so far, locally, there's not an Elliott wave structure saying, yes, we're going up for sure, right? If it does, great. It's the strength of the community. I'll chalk it up to that. Here was an opportunity for you to be aware of. You have hidden bear divergence on a three-wave motion up that ends on what? Strikingly, who would have guessed it? High volume. So a three-wave motion ending on high volume is likely corrective, right? So that was the end of a corrective structure. Yes? So if this is true, that's the end of the connector for our math. And we project downward looking for these confluent areas of support. I think allowing this thing to simmer out for a little bit is totally fine, right? I do think at some point, the hope is that this leg gets a partner leg, right? It was an incredible motion through the project. It was a lot of strength shown by FARTBOY. So the hope would be for the bulls to get this partner leg in the future. As long as it's staying above the 786, the project has hope. Yes, I would say real probability shift point for this to the bears is when it begins to lose this confluent area of support at the 1.618 and the 0.5, which comes in around 0.001226. If we lose this confluent area of support, this should not be seen any longer as a leg and a connector and a partner leg, right? This should be seen as we're getting an impulse to the downside, bad things are coming, yes? And then you will likely lose this. You will likely hit the 90% retracement, which will engage taking the lows. Yes, that's the ultimate bear path. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I just want to put it out there, yes? All right, the next chart is minor for stank. So let's cover that now. That's on MEXC, the gentleman says. All right. Never give up. Never surrender. Is this like a Justin Bieber song coin or some shit? Never surrender. All right. Volume's falling with the motion upward. Do you see that? That's not the best thing, stank. We don't like these. All right. So this is a hard chart to analyze because of the motions here. But I would have to say this looks like a three-wave motion down. Yes? If you are to chop it up here to the 90%, great. But I would say so far, because I can't analyze this using my typical ways, I would say you having falling volume as this motion comes to the upside is a sign of possibly that you might want to give up. Right? Like I'm not telling you what to do, but a very choppy motion coming up to this 786 finding resistance isn't always great. Let's analyze this. I fucking don't want to, but we're going to. It's very, very choppy. Do you see? Everything about this sells itself as not impulsive, right? If you are lucky, let's try to bullshit this. We're going to go from, let's put some numbers on it. If you are lucky, somehow, some way, you make the world's ugliest diagonal to the upside. But if it is a diagonal, what does that mean to you, my friend? Stank. We covered this earlier in the stream. I bet everybody in the Discord would be shouting this out loud right now. Your most common area of interest is the 786. So if I'm in this project and I have declining volume, meaning volume from my buyers who are supposed to be holding me up is drying up, that means I'm finding momentum divergence as I'm moving up into here. Things aren't looking so hot. If that's true and it was a diagonal, your 786 most common area of interest, that's a pretty good cut. That's a 60% loss. I'm not saying give up, but maybe get back in later. Let's check a cipher on this thing. Cipher was not giving a momentum divergence, but you are seeing money flow begin to taper off finally here. If the VWAP comes up and finds resistance at the center line, it could be a decent rejection. So be aware, if this comes up a little bit and doesn't make a new high, we could start to reject here. So you can also see you had your volume and RSI diverging at the same time. There's your RSI, lower RSI, lower RSI, right? It's not super great. So let's get rid of our cipher. Now, if you're a trader that's in this, great. You rode it up, right? You sat through shit. Now let's see, can we make it make sense as a diagonal versus yes or no? So if this is the high of 1 to the low of 2, let's see, did 4 get bigger in depth? 4 did not reach the 1-to-1, so it didn't get bigger in depth. Now let's check, did 4 take longer in time from the highs of 1 to the lows of 2, measuring in a linear motion, to the highs of 3. 4 did not take longer in time than 2. Now let's check to see, did wave 5 become larger than wave 3? Holy cannoli, this might be real. Wave 5 did not become larger than wave 3. This does kind of lean probability towards the diagonal. Now as a trader, what I like to do is put a kind of acceleration channel from the lows of 2 to the lows of 4 to the highs of 3 of the diagonal. We've lost the center line support. I would think the next thing would be a swift motion to this lower trend line support and then come out of it, find it as resistance, and continue the downward motion. So far, I would say that this minor or AKA never give up could be slated for some downside due to the momentum divergence that we're seeing on the RSI and the volume with the motion upward and a possible diagonal. Once you lose the trend line from 2 to 4, it does kind of give you the probability to say, yes, this is most probable scenario. Okay? All right. If that's true, though, that would mean at some point you would take this high, right? So just bear with me here in understanding that this is a very new chart. So I can't give you a whole lot on it, but if you were to have 5 in A and we hold in B, there's a chance, right? So you're telling me there's a chance. I love that movie. Dumb and Dumber is hilarious. Do you guys have any favorite movies you've been watching lately, or TV shows or anything, man? I find it hard ever since COVID to find new good shows and new good movies. I feel like the whole scene has changed. All right, so that was Minor for Stank. Hit me up in the chats if you guys have questions or comments over that one. And let me know any new shows you guys have been watching or any new movies. And let's move into Litecoin for 6 treble 1 while we wait on our movies. Because I know someone in here has been watching some good shit. All right. So you can see what I thought might have happened was 3 down and 3 up and 3 down was my hope. That's not how things went, right? So I own Litecoin from here. I am not selling until we invalidate the potential 5-wave structure here to the upside. This is a good-looking 5-wave structure in Elliott wave. Now, if it began to take more than 6 times in length, we might even have to abandon that idea, right? So let's see where we're at here. We're past 3, 4, 5. So we're not past the 5 and 6 times in lengths yet, so maybe. But I would say that this motion to the downside is really testing what we should consider to be hoping for. Let's get rid of some of the shit here. Fuck it. We'll delete it all. My largest concern would be that this is an ABC and some sort of running style correction is why it happened. But with this being such a choppy 3-wave motion up, I'm really, really hoping that we do take those highs. And I know that's just hope, but you know, I'm a hopeful spot holder. That's what you do. All right. So let's add some probability shift points here, and I will show you what we're talking about. We're going to measure from 0 to the highs of A, or 0 to the highs of 1. I'm going to side with A because of fucking how long the correction is. I will say subjectively that this kind of arcing that you see to the downside, this is covered in the Elliott wave book, and Frost and Prechter referred to it as like a semi-moon shape before a spike down, which is the same thing we could see if we were to invert the chart, would be a semi-moon shape before a spike up or a liquidating move. That's my biggest fear as a spot holder on this. The reason why that comes into my mind is because if this prior 5-wave invalidates at its lows, as soon as that low's taken, everybody in the algorithmic world of fucking Elliott wave and computer trading thought the same thing. I would say the majority held at or folded at 786 and even more at the 90%, and the rest will fold here. If it can get lucky, Litecoin may chain something like this together. Now, let's get this out of our way because we're going to make 900 other things on our chart. The hope here is that this is a diagonal again, though rare, maybe, right? In an ending diagonal, which is 1, 3 waves in 1, 3 waves in 2, 3 waves in 3, 3 waves in 4, and somehow 3 waves in 5. That doesn't look like 3 waves at all. So that kind of fucks it up, right? So that would have been your hope. Now, so far, your wave 5 is not bigger than your wave 3, which helps you keep this probable. But, right, you can see invalidations here at 75.21. So there is a chance that Litecoin is going to invalidate and make this just a 5-wave motion that might be the end of something, which is the worst case scenario. And though they are rare, some sort of running flat. The next thing would be that it's not a 5-wave motion at all, right? That would be your largest concern here. Though it has the look, right? This It has every look Elliott wave has ever wanted it to have. This looks like a decent 5-wave motion up and 3-wave motion back. I'm just trying to defend the point of why to count it this way. And then you have 1, 2, right? So if this is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, the larger degree 4 here, and then 5, that's why I want to count this as a potential 5-wave motion. Though the 5th wave is rather short and doesn't necessarily meet any mathematic extensions we would want it to for a 5th wave, being the 382 as a minimum. That would be the only thing I can really come up with, right? So, and locally you can see what? Divergence, right? On the RSI, and divergence on the volume, with highest volume in the potential wave 3 of that count of 5, right? So in Elliott wave, your wave 3 of 3 will typically have your highest volume. So if this is wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you have another wave 1 and a 2, 3, 4, and 5, your yellow wave 3 will typically have your highest volume, right? And your highest oscillations and highest volume occurs in your wave 3. Same thing as your MACD histogram bars and signal line. Your signal line and MACD up here will often be at their highest in the wave 3 of 3, its highs, right? The wave 5 of the wave 3's highs. It's something good to be aware of. On the histogram, when you begin to get divergence on the histogram itself, you can see that was showing us that momentum is kind of drying up here, right? Along with volume, right? And then you get the Batman ears, the hit inverse head and shoulders on the RSI, whatever you want to call it, right? All right. Sorry that I'm going probably way too far in depth, but that's where my mind's at on this one, is that we hopefully hold here and bounce. But like I said, for the bears, you do have invalidation. And as a spot holder, if this low is lost, prepare for a little bit of bloodlust. The unfortunate thing for Litecoin is that no part of the chart is bullish yet, right? Everything here is a chopping, grinding, fucking range from hell. So far, nothing about it looks great. Yes? All right, so let's see what else we have in the chat and keep on rolling. We've been going for a bit here. We've been going for an hour and 12 minutes. That's our normal, huh? All right, the next things we had was Zcash. We already did FARTBOY, Nameless Monster, but we will cover Zcash for you, my dude. Nameless. You're always here, man. Thanks for showing up, dude. We got for Mina Gratitude Humanity Protocol. Let me see if I can find that. Humanity. Sorry, I got to write it down. I'm old school. All right, and that's for Mina 786. I think you came to the Discord for a little bit, Mina. All right. If I'm thinking the same gratitude. All right, and then we'll talk about shows after these ones, and then we'll shut down the live stream after we talk about shows if no one else has anything. All right, so let's move into Zcash. Unfortunately, she's been shitting her knickers. This is not looking so hot. We were hoping on the local that you were seeing some sort of potential reversal signs. This was what we were kind of covering in the Discord. The hope would be that you have 5, 3, 5, 3, 5 in a leading diagonal. We talked about this. 34 EMA, one of the top analysts in our group. I think they're all top, but he's a great guy. He makes all our indicators for our community. You should come check him out. He has great indicators that compare with some of the indicators that people pay thousands of dollars for, and this guy's just giving them away as part of our package deal for the community. So, great guy. The 786 is the most common area of interest after a diagonal. You should have been noticing that volume died off into those highs. Now let's look at RSI and MACD. We can see what on the MACD? Histogram divergence, yes? Highest signal line I think that's what the fuck it is. I never use the lines. Let's go check so I quit sounding like a jackass. The MACD line, excuse me. Highest MACD line was in the wave 3, like we talked about, and you diverged, right? You have a highest oscillation in wave 3, pull back and 4, pull back and 4, makes the new low. Hidden bull divergence on the MACD histogram. You can see that hidden bull divergence when your wave 4 made a new low on the oscillator versus our wave 2 at the pivot. But price action didn't, letting us know we were going to make that next successive high. Unfortunately, you continued to have MACD histogram divergence as well as signal and MACD line divergences here, right? As well as RSI divergences. So you should have considered profit taking. I would hope this is an A down for the trader, a B up, and then we get a sharp C down, right? That would be the ultimate setup to look for entries. Diagonals are rare, but they do happen. And the more I hear people say they're rare, they're rare, they're rare, it makes me want to say, okay, maybe then. At least I'm going to keep it in my counts, especially with us investigating prior degree wave 4 so well, getting a bounce, and forming a deep divergence on the MACD histogram and signal line and MACD line, right? Now I'm looking to see, do we attack the center line of this, attack the center line of RSI, the bull control zone, and go ahead and attack, which is going to be the 50 EMA on the 4 hour also. And let's see, do we get above those zones and start to make a local recovery where a trader could potentially de-risk some of their position into that motion. Maybe it's a 3-wave motion up, you know what I mean? And if so, that 3-wave motion up is how we can kind of mitigate some of our risk in spot trading in crypto or begin to look for shorts, right? So that's all stuff we cover in the Discord. Though the Discord is not a trade signals group, we work really hard to constantly check the things that you are saying and analyze them and all work as a team so we can see where a chart might be going all along the way. Each of us is learning the strategies together so that we can work as a team. So I think that builds a really good learning environment. We're also starting soon an Elliott Wave beginners course. So essentially we're going to all read the book together in a book club and cover each chapter as we move on. So it'll be pretty fun. So come on by. All right. The next thing that we're going to cover is Humanity Protocol, if I can find it. Is this it? Humanity USDT on MEXC. Wow. At least you have something going for you here. If anybody can tell me why my fixed range volume profile isn't working, I would love to know. For some reason, it died on me. All right, so I'm going to like to view the macro first, and then we'll zoom. Great, the macro is a horrible chart. All right, let's see if that all-time chart for it had more. Not a whole lot different now. So I'm guessing that's your longest history. Let's see who's got the best volume. 6.63 mil on them. I like to see who has the most volume first. And then, all right, so KuCoin's going to win. They have the highest trading volume for this, but I think the chart was a little bit different than our MEXC chart. Not a whole lot different. You did make a new high, though. So dealer's choice, which chart do you want me to use? Gratitude. Would you rather the KuCoin chart or are you trading on MEXC? If you let me know that, that will help out a lot. While I'm waiting to know which chart you'd prefer, KuCoin or MEXC, I will read over what we have here in the chats. Nothing new, said Jamie. Jamie, dude, are you in New York now, my guy? You rewatch Cat in the Hat with Mike Myers. God, that is a good one. That is a hilarious movie. Michael Myers is great. We as a family often watch Austin Powers. And I mean, it's just like one laugh after another. Okay, Nameless coming hard with the shows. I got to write some of these down. Nameless has got one battle after another. Sinners, Weapons, and Frankenstein, and Anora. All right, nice. I'll have to write those down. Check those out. Are you into like the spooky shows, huh? Gratitude, you said you're using the crypto chart. All right. So I will go to this crypto chart. Wow, they had a significantly higher high, so this will be a little bit different. I will do my best for you, friend. But I want you to know charts like this are not going to give me the most high probability work, but I will do my best for you. Bounced. So we have to go from low to high. You're right. You got a little bounce at your 702, yeah? Now, do you have divergences here? You have a hidden bull divergence on your RSI and on your MACD and signal line with a crossover on the daily, which has already been confirmed. I think that's beautiful. Now let's get rid of all of this shit. I will tell you, so far, there's not a whole lot we're going to do with this with the Elliott wave. So let's see here. So regardless of what it achieves, it's only ever achieved a corrective motion towards the upside, right? Maybe this is 3 up, 3 down, 3 up, and a WXY. But it looks like shit. This isn't likely, even if you're lucky, it's some sort of diagonal, but it was the end of a corrective motion more than likely. So not something to get too excited about. I would personally start using the other chart versus this one. Rejects at this 1.382 area, which is good for rejection. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do a whole lot for you on this. Even the lower time frames so far aren't so great. I think that subjectively, I like this arcing look, right? That leads to displacement like you saw, but you really want more displaced, shallow pullback. You want to finish a structure to the upside first that comes into the internal fair value gap left behind in liquidity, and then we look for a rejection, and then you get interested in buying into the pullback into this area. Does that make sense? Because markets don't go up forever. You know what I mean? It just, they have to pull back at some point, and these motions, right, they don't last forever. So let's see here. Let me delete some sheets. Some sheets. What do we got here? Some sheets. What is this? This is the major malfunction in the chart, though. I didn't mean to do that. Is that we never got impulsive out the gate. So you can see a 3-wave motion to the upside, followed by what? A 90% retracement, right? And a 3-wave motion. It's not the best look, you know. It's typically not how an impulse would start or something strong. It's typically how a corrective motion towards the upside starts. I know it reached the 1.618. I can't check volume on this chart. But I would be hard pressed to call that a wave 3, right? This wave 3s typically have the look, meaning they have a 5-wave motion that's very clear. Like you can see some sort of 5-wave motion trying to form here, but you overlap, right? You overlap. It kind of starts to lose the look. So I would say on the hourly, so far it doesn't have anything that gets me going. I want to check on XCs. Yeah, even here it's very 3 waves up, 3 waves down, chopping, grinding, probably a 3-wave motion up, you know. It looks very, very corrective. I would say that this area of interest is where I would be looking to from low to high and just staying super patient. Motherfucker, the tools don't work when you want them to. You touch the 236, engaged with the 382 on a T. I think that the golden pockets are most common area of interest after this. And if you're lucky, it's some sort of 3 up, 3 down, and then gives 5 up. But it's not the most promising thing. I would say that it's nice that you had these reactions with this internal fair value gap left behind. I'm just going to go from there. You're above the 50% line, but this is a nice sharp reaction and a choppy motion. I would say wait for this partner leg and let's see, do we get a three-wave motion to the downside that a trader could try to take advantage of to that most common area of interest of resistance? Can we turn it to support at the 1-to-1, or do we come down to the confluence of the 702 and the 1.382, right? But overall, not as high probability of trading because, again, we're lacking this motion, right? And I'm surprised no one asked for this one, but I'm going to throw it in the fucking hat just in case this one pulls a reversal off. Though it looks like shit, Cardano is a maybe. As a spot trader, you don't want to see your invalidation at the lows being taken. It's a very hopeful A, B, and C. It's very, very ugly. It rejected from the expanded B wave pocket at the 1.382 and stepped just inside of this internal fair value gap left behind with a wick and rejected, leaving bullish order flows on its high. So as a spot trader, I'm trying to hold on to my spot and look to see, do we get this partner leg, right? And does it reach the 1 through 1.382? Can it get up into the next internal fair value gap, you know? So I'm in this thing spot. I'm going to hold until we're invalidated at the lows and see what happens after that. So, and lately I've continued to say this again and again in the Discord is, if you're buying spot, you're buying a little bit and you're obviously managing it based upon how will it feel when stop loss happens, right? So you only involve the amount of money that you're willing to lose at stop loss, right? So from here on Cardano, as a spot trader, you're risking 2.5%, which is shit. It's nothing, you know? So it's kind of like one of those things. At a certain point, you have to understand how to manage risk and look at it this way so you can see what's if it's worth it for you or not. All right, guys, we've covered quite a bit today. I've had a great time in this stream. I hope you guys have. If you're enjoying this kind of content, you're enjoying all the stuff that we like to talk about here and the style, the bullshit that I bring, I like to talk and chat with you guys. If you're enjoying this type of analysis, hit me up, come over to Discord. We have a link up above pinned. We would love to have you. You know, we have a great group of individuals that are all educated in these topics, as well as a suite of community indicators that are doing really well at predicting a lot of these moves. We also cover the options and indices markets, as well as metals and stock markets. So come check it out, and I will see you guys out there. Peace out.